I'm Spence Graham with Real Digital Media and chairman of the Digital Signage Federation, and you are listening to and watching the AV Life.
Hi, this is Nancy Blanchard with Williams AV at Nancy Blanchard, and you are listening to and watching the AV Life.
Hi, I'm James King. I'm a writer for the Higher Ed AV Digital Magazine, the IT and AV column, and you are watching and listening to the AV Life.
I'm Murphy Daly, author and AV veteran. You are joining us for the AV Life.
And I am Renee Benson with JVNA. It's at AV Renee KC, and you are watching and listening to the AV Life.
Hey, welcome to the Higher Ed. My name is Joe Way, and you are watching and listening to the AV Life.
And I am your host, Tim Van Wert, not that gentleman that just spoke from Rutgers University. And you are watching and listening to the AV Life. You know, Joe, I didn't even get a chance to introduce myself, and you're already taking over my show.
The shameless plugs.
I creep it up every week, a little closer, a little closer.
See, and this is why you get relegated to the guest spot, because that way at least I get a little bit of space.
But you've made me a crew member 3 weeks in a row. That's all on you.
He's cocky.
Well, yes, and maybe I shouldn't make that mistake again.
I know. Just put me in the corner with my dunce cap, and we'll be good.
You are in my corner right now. So you in my Hollywood squares right now. So you are in the corner. It's the best I could do right now.
We do have a perfect Hollywood squares tonight.
Yes, we do.
Did you know you can now record the gallery view thanks to Zoom, which is fantastic.
And that's what I have been. And I have been. So you haven't been watching the videos then, have you?
No, I don't watch the video. I just have you email it to me on Sunday night, way late, or maybe.
Well, it's way late for me. It's not so late for you.
Or maybe Monday morning with the "oops, I forgot," and then I post it.
Hey, that was Valentine's Day, okay? Anyway,
wow, rough night.
Yeah. That's all right. I know I'm not perfect on this. You know, I am. Some nights I feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants. So, you know, but welcome to the AV Life, folks. We've got a couple guests, and as you can see, I've got a full gamut of the crew tonight. We're just short a Kim, and but I'm sure she's dealing with the snow here in New Jersey again. I am done with snow here in New Jersey, and I don't want to. I can't complain, because I know, unfortunately, we have some of our AV AV tweeps out there who are dealing with way worse in the middle America and Texas. So, Renee, you mentioned earlier to me that you're doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing okay. We had some scheduled blackouts the last couple of days to kind of help with that power grid down in the south, but we're back to normal. We're supposed to be up to 30 tomorrow, so I'm pretty sure we'll all be outside in our bikinis. So yeah, we got that going for us. Yeah, after negative 15 and 20, it was brutal.
Yeah, that polar vortex hit you guys hard. So.
Yeah, it was good. But...
Got some friends in Texas, and yes, we all know it's cold there. I'm a little worried about them. There was like one night here in Southern California, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, when it got freezing, like 2 nights in a row, and a bunch of plants died. Like all of the trees in Texas, all the ones that are like small, they're going to be dead.
Not going to be good.
Sad. Yeah. I mean, in addition to all the other things, I'm like, oh, their plants are going to.
You know who else is going to die?
Not Grandma.
We're going to save Grandma.
Oh,
we're saving Grandma
close to home.
So if you want to save Grandma, there are links on if you do a search for different like ways to help out the folks in Texas. Go look it up. You can send money, I think they are taking actual donations of things, even though it's COVID and all that. So, do your research if you want to send some stuff, help out down there. Just as we've always done for those of us in our AV family, they're just extended AV family. So let's just make sure we keep them warm and going and save Grandma. So.
And you know what, Tim, that is awesome that you do that, because that is a thing. Even though, we joke about, saving grandma on the show. The fact is, when you see things like snow coming in South Texas, the fact is, even though people who live through it might sit there and go, I can't believe you're shutting down a city, all this stuff's happening, they're not prepared for it, right? Places that get it are prepared for it.
Yep.
But those who aren't, it actually is a serious thing.
Yep.
Right. So thank you for taking the time to point that out. And we really need to show the love to all of our AV tweeps who are out there, and our AV professionals who live in the area, because it is a huge, huge part of our industry. So that is awesome.
Yeah. And I know
I
there's
grew up
been a
in
lot
South
of.
Georgia.
Oh,
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay.
Will, why don't you introduce yourself as one of our guests tonight, and then continue your statement.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm Will DeWitt. I work at College of Charleston, but I grew up in South Georgia. And I remember growing up, anytime there were snow flurries, not even sticking to the ground, schools would shut down because nobody knows how to drive in the snow. And I would tell people when they moved down when I was in college, like, yeah, maybe you're from up north and you know how to drive in the snow, but we don't. Stay off the road.
Like I say,
Trust me, you'll get hit.
I swear to God, this actually happened this morning. We had about 3 inches of snow come down last night. We're here in West Virginia. I am driving back out here to the house after running some errands early this morning. Right out in front of the hospital, there's a guy with Georgia license plates, has not even cleaned off the back window, so he cannot possibly see out his rear view mirror, right? There's 3 inches of snow on his car. He comes barreling around the corner, and I'm sitting there thinking, number one, we need to clean our back window. Number two is you are hauling tail too fast right now, because there is a 4-way stop at a major intersection down there. And I mean, he started to hit the brakes, and I was behind him, and I'm like, this is not good. All of a sudden, the rear end of the car kind of broke loose, started swinging out to the left. And I mean, he missed the car that was stopped at the intersection. They're clipping their front right fender. He didn't do it, but he slid clear out into the second lane. The other cars are stopped all around there. It's a wonder he did not get center punched. But yeah, it's like, if you've got Georgia license plates up here in West Virginia, when there's 3 inches of fresh snow on there and it's slick as ice, you probably need to drive defensively.
So
Yeah,
Keep your
there's a
distance. I
reason.
don't know what I'm doing.
see, I went to school in Pennsylvania, and I learned. I went to school for a while in Northeast Pennsylvania, right outside Scranton. And Pennsylvania people, not to knock them or anything, but they think they can drive better when it snows. So they cut you off. They'll do crazy stuff that they won't do normal days, but snow they'll do. And the college I went to get to the town, you had to drive down this really steep hill at the 4-lane, 2 one way, 2 the other way. And there's side streets on the hill. And we're coming down the hill, and somebody decides to cut me off by that hill snow covered from the side street. Luckily, I didn't hit them, because I actually realized they were going to do that, and I was prepared to get around them. But yeah, they think, Pennsylvania people think snow on the ground, that they can drive however they want.
See, and that's Northern California with rain. I can't tell you how many cars they aren't able to maneuver to get on the off ramp, and they just go straight into the ditch.
Mhm.
With
So,
rain?
There's a reason. So there's
Wait,
a reason
you have
that
room to drive in California with all the traffic?
Yeah, we used to.
Maybe they
Well,
were
there's
too
a
busy
reason.
looking at the rainbows on the highway. Maybe Joe was on that highway and there's rainbows distracted them.
Yeah.
I'm
Don't
all
watch
about
What's
the
those
everybody's
rainbows.
policy
SoCal
right now
rainbows.
with snow and rain days, or storm days, or hurricane days?
Haven't
built
snow
it into
days
the-
just disappeared now in the last 10 months? Haven't we kind of figured out how to work from home, and snow days are just like a thing of the past?
Yeah, that was a whole separate conversation. Richard, welcome to the show, by the way. Now that we've already
Sorry.
gone into full conversation mode here. Richard, introduce yourself to our audience and we'll keep the conversation rolling.
Thanks very much. Richard Hutton. I work Richard Hutton 67 on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. I work for Sharp NEC Display Solutions, marketing displays, responsible for the marketing department for the Americas, particularly on the channel side and vertical marketing.
Well, glad you could join us, Richard. And I'm, and yeah,
happy to be here. I suddenly sort of I've had two panics tonight. One was when you did the intro, I went, am I supposed to do an intro? What's this? And then I quickly realized, no, I'm not. Relax. But then the other one occurred to me when you invited me. I went to college for like a year and quit and went to try and make some money. And then I was like, all these are like higher ed people. And yeah, I feel very underqualified to be here.
No,
It's okay.
trust
We're just
me.
pretending like everyone else.
Because you didn't go into higher ed, you actually are the one with the money. That's why we invited you.
Yeah.
exactly.
Let's
You know,
talk-
and
You're on
I'm
the
a
mountain of
16
debt.
year, I'm a 16-year veteran, I guess, of getting my degree. So I think you
It's
did.
kind of a weird retirement plan I've got to go, what would I do in my retirement? And a lot of ideas, but one of them is actually to sort of go to college and sort of study something just for the hell of studying it, not to think, oh, this is going to get me a career in X, Y, Z or whatever, right? Just for the hell. I'd be the old codger at the back of the hall, never handed a piece of homework in because he didn't really need the qualification, just generally interested in the subject. I'd be
Well,
that
there
guy.
you go.
There you go.
That sounds great. I feel like Murphy is saying something very important, but she's
Yeah.
muted. So let's try that again, Murphy.
Hey,
Can we bring the bingo back up again?
that's how I started in my college. Well, how I finished my college. I always wanted to study books, and I didn't think I would ever make any money out of it. So I didn't, I ended up taking a job doing AV and had a two-tiered. I would do the job, and I also would take night classes.
I got to say, Murphy, it's really nice to meet you virtually. And I also have to admit that every day you put out a little video on Twitter and you start with saying, hello, internet. And I've usually got a cup of coffee in my hand and I say, hello, Murphy. And, and now it
That's
feels
great.
kind of real because you're here and you're talking and you're not doing your little video thing. But
I'm real.
So at the
What?
end, do you go wash your hands when you're done listening to her?
I am.
Oh yeah.
That took a weird turn, but okay.
It did.
She always ends it with, don't
Yep.
forget to wash your
Wash
hands.
your
Stay
hands.
safe out there. Keep your hands washed.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
That's-
I always
that's
think
coming
I'm the,
up on
I'm
a
the
year.
internet. When you're saying that, hello, internet, I'm like, I'm
You.
the internet.
Yep.
I say, hi, Murphy.
Okay. I'm gonna remember that. Thank you so much. That makes me happy.
See, you're reaching out to
Wow.
people, Murphy. So that's good.
I'm not alone.
No, you're not. No, none of us are alone in the AV Twitter world. It's we don't leave each other alone. We get each other into tweet
Right.
storms and stuff like that.
Right.
And happy 2-year anniversary to the tweet storm, by the way. So that's a couple weeks late, but happy anniversary. A simple question of who should I follow here on Twitter turned into the tweet storm that it is. Thanks, Joe. And Kaleo. Actually, I should thank Kaleo too, because I feel like Kaleo is the other one that ends up like firing it off randomly.
Yeah.
Wait, you saying you want to restart the tweet storm?
Oh, I think we
yeah, yeah.
should.
Will in it.
Oh,
I think it's
Oh,
time,
wow.
Joe.
Let me find it on Twitter.
Gotta get
You
Will
guys
into it.
continue the conversation.
We will continue. So welcome Richard and welcome to Will for joining us here tonight. We're just kind of loose form tonight. Nothing really structured here. As we're all dealing with whatever we got going on in our part of the country right now. And we'll save the whole COVID, reminiscing or whatever you want to call it, for next month, when we officially hit a year of having to deal with what we got going on. But for tonight, let's go. We're gonna go into the PM minute first, and then we'll go into our grab bag and pull out a couple things to talk about. So Murphy, take it away with our project
Hey.
management minute.
The PM minute. I'm going to say it. Don't be a creep. I'm talking about scope creep.
Let's talk about what?
Scope creep.
Scope creep. Oh, okay.
I thought you said Soap Creek.
No, see, this is why I have to preach it here. A project is defined as having a beginning and an end. And so when I'm making a project and making the plan, it is the definition of done is really important. So, and I'm going to tell you, day 2 is your friend. Say, oh yeah, you know what? The scope of this project is to pick up my phone and put it down again. Day 2 is making a phone call. And the tweet that I wanted to do. No, but the scope is up and down. That's it. Now the project is done and I'm moving on. But scope creep is like, oh, but I'm going to, believe me, don't we have scope creep on picking up our phone all the time? That's a good example.
Mhm.
Falling into something that ends up being bigger and taking more time and resources. And wait, did we even finish doing the thing that we said we were going to do at the beginning? No, don't be a creep. Define what's done, get it done right, get it all the way done, and then move on to the next thing, day 2, phase 2, whatever. But don't be a creep. Be careful. Don't pile on this stuff. Get it done and be over with.
So I guess another part of that is stick to your scope. That's the other part.
Yeah.
Like don't go out, because I'm guilty of that. I and that's even more of like a personal thing, more because like I'll say I'll do something, which I do, but then when people come in that has, hey, could you do this, could you do this, could you do that, I'm the guy that, like, I don't like being the one that isn't the team player, but it usually comes to burn me otherwise, because then I get myself too involved. And so if I had just stuck to the scope, then everything would have been fine.
And also, oh, I love saying outside of scope. People come in, oh, we should do this. We do, like, oh, okay, great. We can. Not for this project. So when your person comes up and says, oh, can we add that? Absolutely. Let's set up another project for that. We can't add it to this one. This one is protected.
She doesn't want change orders.
So basically what you're saying is that
change
you
orders are
don't
fine,
care.
but you define
You
it.
don't care that the user is sitting at home realizing that they need more, and that maybe because they're not professionals in our industry, they don't think at the at the initial meeting of everything they need. So they might come back later saying they need something else, and you just don't care about the user.
Clearly you have not been in a project meeting with me, Joe, because I care so much. Anything the user, the customer wants to suggest, absolutely. The answer is yes, we can do that. We'll give you a bid.
Well, isn't that where the change order also comes in? Because then you can charge more.
Yeah.
And also, so every once in a while, the change is in the less money category. And then we say, good, we will change and alter the contract. That's the change order too. But when you define it, then you know that you're getting everything that the user wants into the project.
So you have to have a really defined end point, right?
Mhm.
And both the user and you have to agree on what the end is, right?
Yeah.
And I don't do what you guys do, but I am the client in a lot of, like, bringing platforms on board and developing new systems and processes, and getting to the point where you both agree on this. We're going to do this project X, Y, and Z. This is what the end is, and we have to both agree to this is what the end is and stick to that.
Well, see, here's the thing. Joe, you're feeling hurt about it. You're like, but what about my needs as a user? Absolutely, absolutely. So in the article that I just submitted, that's going to be out, I think soon, they said the end of this week. So any minute now, Rave Agency is going to put it up. And I was saying people are afraid of change order. They're so afraid of change orders. But what's worse than a change order, which would be a bill for more than what you budgeted, perhaps, often, what's worse than that extra money is not getting what you needed. So, Joe, do you want me to say this is good enough?
No, 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 no.
Okay,
Here we
yes,
go.
let's duke it out. Oh
No.
yeah.
Here
Hey,
we go.
Murphy, I think
Hey,
that's a no.
Wait, hold on.
Bring it.
Let me
There's
give a
that,
couple no's.
he's got a case of the nose, so we need
No,
to
no,
figure
no,
this
no,
out.
no, no, no. You know why? Because here's the thing. I'd like to first start by saying that I love all you integrators. But here's the issue: is it starts.
Wait, you are an integrator.
Oh,
Richard, you
self-love.
are my single
Oh.
favorite
Self-love.
person
Oh.
on earth right now. Oh,
Okay.
we just
Oh,
turned
it's over
corners.
before.
I don't know which way to go. Do I go with who I love or what I
Start-
hate? All right, since I'm
scope creep,
controversial.
scope creep. Do not let him creep your scope. Your point was?
I just did that.
You did. Here, here's the thing. I just totally lost my train of thought.
Oh,
But
I'm
here's
so
the thing.
sorry, dude.
No,
I didn't mean to do that. I
No,
really
but
didn't mean to do
okay.
He did. He deserved
No,
it.
He did, but okay.
Okay,
I started with
Murphy's
I
in the
love
middle and Joe's
integrators.
on
I
the
love all
bottom,
my
so-
Yes,
integrator
you
partners.
love
My
you
integrator
love
partners are my
integrators.
favorite. But what happens is scope creep happens because low
Yes.
bidder tries to win. Period. And therefore, they come in, they do the user walk. Let's listen to this, and then this is going to work, and this is what you need. And then 3 months later, you walk in and you go, why do I have 5-wire? Why do I have B and C connectors for my laptop? Like, that's what you find out. And you're like, oh, because you need 19 inputs for your laptop, because who knows who's going to walk in with a 1998, laptop of whatever, or a big old computer, and they're going to put it on the desk. That's what happens. So
Okay.
because you
Okay.
don't listen to the needs, and realizing that the users don't, and this is the beauty of being, thank you, Richard, in-house integrators, is that we know how to take what and translate what our users say into what they really need. But
Okay.
yet we find from integrators who then have their own project managers who say, oh, no, they said they need this, because what happens is project manager comes in along with the consultant comes in. Do you need DVI? Yeah, I need DVI. When's the last time you saw a laptop with DVI? Okay. But they're going to say yes because they don't know any different. And then
Have my DVI adapter. for
That
the
would
back of
be predatory integrators.
but it happens all day long.
And
Okay,
unfortunately,
All
the easiest
day
prey, yeah, and the easiest prey is an uneducated end user.
Yep.
Right. And
And
see, I
that's-
don't pray that way. All right. As a project manager.
Hashtag I don't pray
There it
that way.
is. Hashtag we don't pray that way.
So all right.
Spell it correctly, though.
Integrators.
EY.
EY. If the integrator comes in and the end user customer really doesn't know better, yeah, they're going to get taken advantage of. If you get some kind of designer that's kind of putting in this nonsense, I never worked with those kind of designers that had that nonsense. Like, I would look at as a project manager, I would look at the bill of materials and say, what? Are you sure? Even if I only saw just VGA with the audio aux, which is still out there, I'd be like, are you sure they want this? And they would say, yeah, they do. They have only, we discussed it. Okay, fine, discuss it. But also, as a project manager, as I just said in this article that I was so happy to write, you start the kickoff with, this is what you want, right? And then the customer will say, oh yeah, I forgot, we want one thing extra. We want one thing different. And then you write that down, and every time I would meet, every weekly meeting, I would start with, this is the scope, right? Not the whole document, but the top and enough. And the bill of materials, before I order a bill of materials, I know if something's going to get returned. I'm like, wait a minute, are you sure?
Okay, so here's the thing.
Whole team.
Scope starts earlier than that. And this is the problem with our industry. Our industry believes that scope starts when the contract is signed. But I'm right, am I not? I am 100% right. And the scope starts earlier. The scope starts by educating those who don't know. Right? And
Scope
that
doesn't
way,
start until you've decided on the end of it. That's the contract. There's a design, and that's part of it. And that's
no, but the problem is what happens is people show up with a design, they do the one meeting, and here's how it works. The consultant and the manager and whatever. And sometimes the integrators already got in ahead of time because the GC brought them in, which is a whole other issue. And they go, and this is how it works. Do you want X? Do you want Y? Because the uneducated user will always say yes. Do you picture that you will ever want to blah, blah, blah? Do you picture that you will ever want to and then da, da, da?
But
Do
is
you
that
ever
not
picture,
is that not the job? That's them doing their job.
do you picture that you would like
No.
to speak in 19 different languages at one time? It's,
Okay.
you know, for,
Okay,
you're right,
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Will. Yeah.
only if you're supporting my side.
No, I don't care.
Go
It could
take
be
over.
whatever your opinion is, Will. Don't listen to that man.
Actually, a little bit of both. One, yes. I totally get, sorry, I'm trying to phrase things in ways that make sense. But yes, I'm with Joe with, contractors, consultants, integrators are wanting to cover their rears. But also, how many times have any of us dealt with people that are, let's say, less than competent? And
what?
contractors, integrators don't necessarily know manufacturers, who's competent and who's not. Like, I know some people at some former institutions that every time I mention, oh yeah, I worked there, everyone's like, oh,
Will, don't
have
hold
you
back,
dealt
Will.
with so-and-so?
Okay, you're
There's only
pussyfooting. All
3,000
right.
people listening. Just
Yeah.
go with this.
So-
It's okay.
But we all know those people that you're like, don't listen to them.
Well, all right. Yes. You know, I've worked for some big integrators and as a project manager, and I would talk to my design engineers, the good ones, because those are the ones that wanted to talk to me. The other ones wanted to leave me alone. But I'd be like, you guys, why are we plumbers? Why are you acting like a plumber? If the customer comes in and says, okay, I want 4 rooms and blah, blah, blah. And they go, okay, here you go. Like, no, stop it. We need to go in and tell the customers, here are some possibilities. Here are some things that are coming down the pike 3 years. And here's some things you could look forward to and integrate this into your system. And then, we'll give you what you're ordering. But we need to tell you the value of what it is that we're doing. They're like, yeah, nobody gives us time to do that. I'm like,
Well,
come on, we should be
that's-
leaders.
And then who gets blamed when you say, well, how come you didn't tell me that when you were here 6 months ago?
I think what the biggest issue is, there's a disconnect. You have the integrators and people who are trying to sell you products. You know, they're trying to get the job done. And the users are trying to get a job done, but no one's sitting down and listening to what the job is. There's a show I like to watch called New Amsterdam. The head of medicine, his famous line is, how can I help? That just there, right there, that line, if an integrator sits down with the end user or project manager, sit down and go, how can I help? Listen to what the room needs to do. Who cares about the equipment? Once you know what the room is going to do, then you can put the equipment in.
And James, ding, ding, ding. Isn't that from the consultants panel on the HETMA session where it was communicate, listen, And there was a third one, and I can't remember what the third one is, but it was communicate and listen. Big time.
The third one was give a discount to all in-house integrators.
Direct
if I-
direct
Buy
pricing.
Direct, yeah, right.
Buy
Well-
direct.
At least that's what my notes said, right? Buy direct is good enough.
You know,
I
Joey,
wanna
Renee-
and
Yeah.
and Mike, it was, communicate and listen. That's the biggest thing, is listen. Don't put in what you think should be put in. Put in what, how the user's going to use it. And even then through you guys, remember, it's like, hey, let's get some product. We'll test it out, but also we need our users to test it out because they use it, in a
Okay,
different way.
I
Like,
still
please give
think
me your
I s-
opinion, but don't fight me.
Yeah.
about a
Let me
thousand
tell me
years
what-
ago, I was also in kind of, you guys' shoes, in that I was running operations for large enterprises. And the salespeople I loved were the ones that would come and educate me. I'm like, you guys, why don't we do this thing? So yeah, listen. But believe me, I think the salespeople sit around and listen to they're the bartender for the customers. They're like, oh, tell me all your
Mhm.
problems, and they're like a safe place. And I'm sure there's a lot of complaining about, oh, my company, blah, blah, blah.
What
No.
They
I
still, they still
My
got to sell
experience,
whiskey, though.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, Renee. Oh,
They still got to sell whiskey.
Right.
Renee, you were. Oh, sorry, Richard. Go ahead.
It's just I'm kind of this is I'm going to be like Will now because I'm trying to phrase how I'm going to put this, but I'm the client on, and it's generally software, so it's kind of hard to sort of frame this into the sort of AV world, but I find that whole point of agreeing what the end is, I don't, and I'll say I've not done a good job of articulating exactly what that is, because often I'll assume it's just understood. We want the thing to work, and I'm not a code guy, I'm not a software person, so I'll see these projects where it's like, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and I'm always thinking, okay, but it needs to get me to this endpoint that we may or may not have agreed to, and I might have assumed that we've agreed to it, and I keep having to go back and check that we did agree to it. But that whole idea of the listening part is key, but they are still trying to sell you something, and it's frustrating, and
that comes back to relationship building.
And
You
there's
know?
Yeah.
still a lot of real
and it's
good ones
that
out
difference between the sales team versus the implementation team, right?
Right.
Because the
Yeah.
sales team, they'll buddy up to you, and they'll ask you all the right listening type of questions. What I heard you say was blah 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 blah.
Oh,
blah.
Zig Ziglar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because when we were talking about this a bit ago, I was thinking about Stephen Covey and begin with the end in mind. But and it sort of holds true, cliche though it is. But then you get handed off to the implementation team, and halfway into the project, you're going, wait, this isn't what we're not going to get to our agreed endpoint here. And then the
Bingo.
fun really starts.
Mhm.
And that's
Renee,
the
you
whole
were
thing.
you were starting to. Oh, sorry, Joe. Renee, you were starting to say something though. Go ahead.
because I think over the years, what I've seen, at least in my travels, is there still are a lot of good integrators out there who aren't going to shove something down an end user's scope that isn't meant to be. Now, you still have those that are going to add the bells and the whistles that they may or may not need because it's a sale, right?
Yeah.
I try to see the good in people. I know, like, if I'm working with an end user and I see that it's somebody that's struggling a little bit on the technology side or what they may think they want, I'm going to hook them up with somebody I know is going to be good to them, because there's a lot of those that still exist out there.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, and
You're right.
I'm interested to think now, because over the last year we've noticed that a lot. At least I've noticed a lot of the smaller integration firms have been bought up by some of the larger ones. Are we going to see that level of, like, I don't need to sell you all the bells and whistles, like, disappear?
Well,
I mean,
think-
it's not. I don't
all
want
right.
to generalize by the larger integrators, but that
Well,
seems to be what ends up happening.
I'm
You
sorry,
have
but
the larger integrators is you have business units. And so they have, they've got to report, they've got to be able to produce, and it all depends on their margins and things. And that's where it gets lost.
Yep.
It really does.
nope. I'm sorry. Oh hell.
Apparently,
Oh
everyone's lost
hell!
the
All
ability
right,
to speak.
since I already have
gonna
a
get fun.
reputation for being controversial, I'm going to go ahead and be controversial.
You, Joe, never.
Oh hell, I'm going to get crap for this, and we're going to move to HEPMA crap too, right? My death
Yeah.
threats and all that stuff at some point. But anyway, I'll go. Why not? Let's add more. We're going to see a lot of M&As because the fact is a lot of small integration companies are about to go under and a lot of big ones are taking advantage of it, period. I'm done talking and it's the truth and you can fight me over it, but it's 100% happening. And the big guys are taking advantage of the little guy and it sucks.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, it happened here in New Jersey just in the last month. So I know some of our smaller integrators have been bought up by larger ones, and
Yep.
like it's unfortunate.
And they're
'cause-
preying on COVID for it. The fact that they can't pay their people and they're furloughing their people and they're desperate. And that's the worst part. I don't mind an M&A. I think that they're good in general. I think that brings a lot of value to having power and buying power and all of that stuff. I see the advantage of being a big integrator. And in my normal role, I use all the big integrators because I understand the buying power and the labor force that they can bring and all the advantages. But we are also seeing a lot of preying on buying up small areas where a big integrator wants to get into a certain market that might only have a couple of integrators, but business is waning, and they will look at that paycheck and they are taking advantage of it. And I have seen it and we all know it's happening. And I'm about to get a lot more threats over this, but I don't care. It's happening.
Is not new in any way.
I
It's
was gonna
not
say,
new, but it's happening a lot more now.
and they would probably say that their excuse is that's business, and that's,
Absolutely.
but that's also how we maintain that free market and that market of being able to have competition and stuff like that, and have the smaller mom and pops that can help us out in those situations. But
Sure.
if we
And the
don't
flip
have
side
them-
is all those techs now still have a job rather than being furloughed
Correct.
and laid off. And I get it. I get the advantages for the employees. But the fact is, people with deep pockets are taking advantage of the little guy right now on a short term. If we look at this in the span of our lifetime, or even the span of a decade, we have been dealing with this, if we look, a year ago, today we were hanging out at the Crestron party at ISE, right? I mean, let's be honest. Like literally, we were hanging out across the world a year ago today. In the span of a decade, this last year is minuscule. It means a lot because we're living it now.
Very big, minuscule, but
Okay, but here's
But you get
the
what I'm
thing.
s-
Do you
go
think
ahead,
that you
Spence.
think that
Go ahead, Spence.
do you think that mom and pop are going to be able to put on that show that Crestron does? Who are you going to?
No, of course not.
Who are you going to do your business with? Are you going to get your benefits from the big guys or the little guys? I'm just playing
Yeah.
devil's advocate
No,
now.
absolutely. And I agree with you in the sense of you have to step back though. And I get it. I just don't want to see people taking advantage of people because of the
But
situation.
it's a fine line between taking advantage and it being business, is it not? If otherwise, we're going to send stimulus checks to everybody, right?
Oh, and I agree. And I don't think we should do that either. Right. I mean, you and I, we agree in a lot of things. I just know that there's being a lot of taking advantage, and there's going to be a lot of, and we look back 5 years from now and we look back and we look at the little, how you see the maps. You want to talk, like, let's look at political maps of,
No,
what area this
no,
and what area
if
that.
they are
We're going to
able
look
to
at
sell-
pre-COVID and post-COVID. And you're going to be like,
if they are able
wait,
to
how did the
sell their
middle of nowhere,
business-
New Mexico, all of a sudden be owned by whatever?
if they are able to sell their business, they're taking advantage of a large buyout. And all those people
Oh, no,
who
no,
are
no. They're
skilled-
taking advantage of the fact they don't have to file bankruptcy.
Well,
That is
that's
not a
business
large
decision. That's
But-
true.
but what would you do in their place, Joe? I mean, if you were struggling and you had people that you were going to have to let go and close your business,
Okay.
what's your choice? I mean, what are your options? I mean,
Well, and not only that, but integrators don't have tenure. That's the other thing too, is, those jobs can come and go in a heartbeat.
At will employment.
I mean, absolutely. And I don't know that I know the other answer.
So
I
here's the
really
other
don't.
thing.
I'm not going to
Here's the other
claim to
thing.
know the other answer, but I do know that we're going to see a big change. that the bigger will get bigger and the smaller will disappear.
will not-
And I
I
don't
agree
know-
that there will be more M&As in the next 12 months at 100%, because there are businesses that are struggling to literally pay their rent and pay their people, furloughs aside, and get new business. I just think it's very cyclical. You know, a lot of things are like, it's COVID related. Well, I think COVID has accelerated a lot of things, right? Work from home, remote work, that was happening anyway. It's accelerated it. The rush from one technology to another, in my world, smaller projection to display, was happening anyway. COVID just accelerated it. And I just think this is another thing that COVID has accelerated. I think it's, you know, that's where relationships are key, right? How and I've seen in my years in the channel space, how many times one sales rep will move from company to company to company for whatever reason, to better themselves. The company went out of business. They wanted to move to a different state, whatever that reason is. They will keep the same clients because they built that relationship and earned that trust time and time again. And it doesn't matter what it says on a business card and who they work for. It's just that person trusts that person not to do them wrong and to do the right thing for them. Mm-hmm. But I hear what you're saying, man. And if you're going through that and you've got integrators and friends and that you were doing business with, that you're seeing them being sort of preyed upon, it is happening a lot right now. And I definitely think the next 12 months, because the economy is going to take a long time to get back to growth, and we're going to see more companies be vulnerable and people buy up either for geographic reasons or to get skill sets, or to buy a company because they've got really good reps that have got really good relationships.
Well, I think we talked about it here, a couple of weeks ago, Tim, that I had read an article that said if you're worried about your stock portfolio, buy Olive Garden companies and your Red Lobsters and your big chain, because the mom and pop restaurants can't take it, and these big chains are going to fill that void. I think that's going. I think Richard's exactly right. It's going to be, but that, as ugly as it is, that's just business. That's a business cycle.
So,
this is a bad
absolutely.
cycle.
All these
Absolutely.
people with the skills who get bought up by Acme AV, you know, the world dominating Acme AV, comes into that slot, grabs all the people like, oh, we got all these great reps. And the reps are like, okay, we'll just keep doing our thing. And it's not just the reps, it's the integrators. It's all, and dare I say, the excellent project managers, where they exist, go out there. And this business is marvelous in that there's pop-up companies all the time. Like, oh, we're going to come up with another business, and that business will not just be hang and bang. It's going to have cloud too.
But you know what? That is the problem. That's the problem. You're not going to see a lot more pop-up coming up in the future.
I don't know about that, man. What makes you say that?
No. Why do you think not? How, when you
exactly
have
the same reason that those companies started in the first place. If you go back and look at the IT channel became very fragmented because everybody was working for NCR, IBM, even early Microsoft, Novell, Xerox. Those companies got absolutely huge, bloated with SG&A, and the engineers within those companies went, hey, I could do this myself, and I've got a great relationship with that school down the road. I know I can manage their IT infrastructure and help them on the next. I'm going to set myself up as a, and this was like, you know, I would say mid 80s, right? And I think the AV industry, you know, followed a similar path. It was big companies, and they broke off engineering people and went, I can do that myself, because the big company didn't want to deal with that one school. They wanted to deal with an entire school district or a Fortune 100 company, somebody where they could bank on like millions of dollars in revenue per year, not tens of thousands of dollars. And that brokered this little fragmented VAR business that's set up. AV business followed that track. Now we're getting generational, where some of those companies have got so big, they've either got bloated, they've not run the business well, or whatever reason there is, they're getting generational change, right? The second and third sometimes generation are now starting to run those companies. They're retiring. We saw the Premier Mounts announcement today, if you missed that, getting sold to a good company kind of thing. But again, sort of a generational change taking place. So I think it's very cyclical. I think you'll find, these bigger companies, you know, the SCN top 50, whatever, right? They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and some of them are buying each other for geographical skill set regions. They're going to get so big that some of the people that work for them are going to go, hey, I could actually do this on my own. Or their kids are going to say that I could do what dad does or mom does. I'm going to do that on my own. I might make more money. I'm entrepreneurial, whatever. I think it's cyclical. I think now we're in this sort of M&A phase, but I think give it 10, 15 years and you'll see no, I can do that on my own. I don't want to work for a big company. I'm fed up of going to big board meetings or whatever it is. I want to go run out and do my
So
own
what
thing.
You know
what
what
I'm
The crap
hearing
is,
then,
I think you're right. Dang it.
yeah. No,
I
I
think you
think, no, I
actually
think
just
it's
nailed it.
cyclical.
I will
here,
hashtag
I will drop
Joe
my
Way was
mouse
wrong.
right now.
Hashtag
Drop
Joe
my
Way
mouse.
was wrong because I think you actually proved it. I was looking at the short term, and in
Not
the
long.
short term,
Yeah.
it will be a lot of M&A,
Life
but in the
finds a
long
way.
run, that's going to flip the other way.
Right.
I
Joe, I was
actually
gonna wanna-
100%
Joe,
agree.
here's how
I
I'm going to
hope
bring
so.
it.
If
Joe,
we have an economy that encourages that and has capital to lend and all the other stuff that needs to take place. But yeah,
and Joe, here's how I'm going to bring it back to you, though, is that this is the time, though, for universities and for maybe corporate to do in-house integration. Get your own team together right now.
Oh, there's some
Before
talent.
you have to rely
Talent
on
on
the
the hook.
large integrators. So this is the time. Get your own team together to ride the storm. So in 10 to 15 years, we're all already set on our own.
Okay,
Yep.
but
Yeah, I
you
was
have
gonna
to know
ask how-
every aspect though. You gotta be able to have every aspect.
Well, this is the time to grab those engineers and audio people and, and everybody and, your programmers
And be
project
able to
managers.
invest in those resources. So training, certifications, everything. So
I was going to ask how this affects more, because obviously USC can afford to have an in-house integration team. A lot of the larger
Yep.
state universities can. How does this affect the more mid-sized to smaller schools, tech schools,
Oh, hell.
directional state?
You're not going to make me I'm already fighting the industry. Now you're going to make me fight the other schools.
Not
It's
fight,
not
just
about size. It's about will, and not will to win.
And not about
but-
you. No.
but will to say what's right for your school. I don't care how big or small you are. Doing something in-house and training your people. And here's the thing, is either right or wrong for who you are. Yes, USC has more zeros at the end of everything. Fine. But that doesn't mean wasn't at USC and I was at Cal Baptist, we still brought everything in-house, but we were 2 zeros short. It
So how
was
did
about
you-
right or wrong.
So how did you kind of preach that to leadership?
You said, would you like to save $2 million this year?
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It's the
It's really a
value-
very, very short conversation.
Return is the ROI. It's the return on investment.
Okay,
You're instead of
this
in
group-
return of
It's
instead of return
business.
of
But
investment.
that being said, you also have to be able to deliver. I am not saying that everyone needs to be an in-house integration company. There are a lot of small schools and large schools. I mean, let's look at it this way. UNLV is a very large school, very known for very innovative things. And they use outside integrators for every single install. They have programmers in-house and design people in-house. Everything else goes out. That's how they focus. And there's nothing wrong with that. That works for them.
Works for them.
Exactly. So I'm not saying everyone needs to go that way. And in
Yeah.
fact, everyone probably shouldn't go that way. It just depends on what works for you. I would say design and support probably should go in-house. And that's not just higher ed. Let's go to commercial. Apple. I mean, we already know that all the Apples and all the, Disneys and all them already do it. But most should. And watch this. Watch me take over Tim's show. Let's move to like Nancy and Renee and Spence and those and Richard who work at the manufacturer level, and that chain what direction are you seeing this moving in? Because I think that there is a difference. And I'll start with, see how I'll start with? That means I'm going to say more after this. See how I did that, Tim?
Yeah, I see
Let's
how
start
you
with
did that.
Nancy.
I
Like,
knew you were going to do that, Joe.
it just takes time. It just takes time. Like, you're listening to this conversation. Where am I wrong? But really, where am I right?
Well, in terms of direct, in talking back to the headquarters and that, as a manufacturer, it's something, no, because then you have to put in place additional support, additional roles to additional inventory, all of that. And it's just, they just said it's to spend hours on the phone trying to troubleshoot. It's just better with the integrator because it might not necessarily be our equipment. It could be something else. So they're more averse that they can sort of step back and sort of look at all the different pieces and fit the puzzle. Whereas when you have a manufacturer, it's instantly like, it's your product that doesn't work. Well, it might not necessarily be our product. So
Who gives all the free stuff to use too? You know,
yeah,
I've been on both sides of that where, yeah, it might not be the manufacturer stuff, but we're the ones that have seen how it screws up, and might not be your equipment that screwed up, but it was how some other piece of equipment screwed up because we standardized and have it across 200-300 classrooms. Not
Yeah.
saying either way is right or wrong.
is it ever
Other way
anybody
where-
else's fault other than the manufacturers?
Eh,
yeah.
usually teachers.
Yeah.
No.
Wait,
It's
I'm
not-
sure it's not.
Yeah, but like I said, it's the infrastructure, and to go direct, it's a whole different ballgame. And so that's what I don't think that the end customer, end user necessarily understands, is that there's so much behind the scenes.
So
Absolutely.
I've
And that's
done it.
exactly
I've been
why we
on both
introduced them.
sides of it, and I'm able. That's why I'm able to argue both sides of the coin,
Right,
because
absolutely.
I was my own integrator. I was my own source. I was my own. We hung and bang things everywhere. So yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Here's the
Just
thing,
tell you,
Nancy.
Joe,
Nancy, Renee,
Oh,
all
Renee.
right, like
Oh.
everyone. I don't want you to speak for your companies, and you're not going to speak for your companies. I will do the like the opinions you're about to hear are not necessarily representative. Sharp NEC or Williams AV or Renee. I don't know exactly the company, but you know what I'm talking about. And
Okay.
if I were to come to you and say, I have an $8 billion line of credit behind me, does it still apply?
it's not just that though. There's so many pieces to, I mean, think of the logistics. If you want to put somebody in a department to handle product coming in, product coming out, logistically getting it there, shipping charges, you don't think about shipping charges.
Wait.
Just the RFP, Joe. How long? How many? Is it going to be a 78-page RFP from you to get a shot at a piece of that 72 bazillion?
It is. I mean, I'll answer for him. It is.
Okay, and that's probably a problem with this vertical. All right, and there might be things that have to be. You're exactly right, and I think we mentioned this. Was it last week or a couple weeks ago about how higher ed RFPs come like, and I'm guilty of it. I think mine is 26 pages long, right? Maybe they need to be simplified, but
You think?
you think okay.
I've been preaching that to
Then
my
you might
guys.
get scope
But
for it,
do you
so-
know why? Do you know why mine is 26 pages long? Because of everything that has happened to me from people who skip,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
who skim
Right.
and
I'm sure,
screw
but
up.
here's
So
the thing,
therefore,
on our
I have to
side-
point it out.
I was
On
gonna
our
say, we
side,
went to
though,
a. Oh, go ahead.
on
Spence.
our side, because I have a very, 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 very close friend of mine in the higher ed vertical. He said, I could do RFPs, small company, very successful. He said, I could do RFPs all day long. He said, it's not worth it to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
He said, why should, he said, 78 pages?
Yeah,
He
but
said,
here's
"We're a
the thing.
small
Well, yeah,
company." He
and
said,
Do
I
you
don't have
realize
time for
in-
that. I got to be out selling stuff.
In my RFP, I have what size rack screws you have to use. Do you know why? Because I had an integrator come in and freaking zip tie a rack shelf. And so now I have to put what size rack screws you have to have because someone came in and zip tied a rack shelf.
Right.
Don't blame me for the fact that my RFP is 26 pages long. Blame the industry that is 26 pages long.
Right.
Kind of
And
like
to
why,
defend that, we
why is
actually
there a
went
tag
to,
saying don't use hair dryer in the bathtub?
So that's where I got.
and
I
that
gotta-
the coffee is hot from McDonald's.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is where I need to step in and bring the IT talk of standards.
Yep,
We, Joe, in higher ed, we should be able to put down saying all equipment mounting should meet a VIXA standard of rack build. Boom, done. That's screws, spacing, everything. We shouldn't have to do all that. But the problem is there's no standards that everybody is agreeing on.
Mhm.
Where IT is loving standards, they'll give you standards because everyone's agreeing on them.
That's
AV
that's
needs
good.
to
Good
get
point.
there.
Yeah.
If you had that, then the writer could be like, this is what it is, and
Yep.
people would just know.
Mhm.
And then you say it must meet the business standards for this, and then you don't have to have somebody who's a CTSD on the staff over there at your college. You can just go, this is the accepted standard, and you can hand it off to somebody else if you get promoted to be president of the
Right.
college, Joe.
Kind of like the
that's- and
famous
it's
no
funny-
brown M&Ms.
And welcome to what HETMA is looking to do in the future and set those standards. And therefore, all you have to say is if you're going to work in higher ed, you're going to follow the HETMA approved program.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd
Period.
love to
Right.
say follow HETMA standards, and that eliminate 50 pages of what we have to write out right now because
Exactly.
nobody reads those anyway. And they all go, oh yeah, we read them, and then come back in after them and have to fix everything that wasn't right.
Oh yeah.
So
Speaking of HEPA, HEPMA.
yeah, speaking of HETMA, so
Yeah.
HETMA took over AV in the AM this last weekend. And since we're just giving Joe a whole lot of hell right now, we might as well just keep the hell going. So anyway, let me go back. Thank Murphy for that PM minute that turned into like a half-hour conversation. So thank you
They
for
always
that.
do.
It definitely took off on its own. So HETMA took over AV in the AM this last weekend. We had some great topics that came up and really started some conversations, Joe. I think that's a way of putting it very lightly.
You think?
This is the point where Joe can take over, right?
You know, what?
I'm
This
actually,
isn't my show, so I'm not going to talk about it.
no,
I'm
well,
not going
you-
to talk about the fact that I had, and I'm not lying. Now I'm trying to do math. It was 2 today, 1 yesterday, and 3 on Tuesday. That's 6, right?
6. Yeah.
Meetings with CEOs of major companies that you would know the names of, who have reached out to me to talk about the issues that we brought up. If that doesn't tell you what HETMA has done, that's all I
So-
can say.
The power of an association.
Yeah.
And not only the power of association, but the fact that there are voices that need to be heard. And the biggest obviously was the buy direct, right? Because that is where HETMA, or at least as a vertical, we're causing disruption. But let me be honest. I think the biggest, I don't know what the right word is, impact that was from this last week. And I will say this 100% proud. As a steering committee, and Tim, you were on the initial steering committee that was made up of the 30s to 40-year-old white male, every single panel, we focused on diversity and inclusion, and that was our goal, and we accomplished it, and it was fantastic. And hearing the diversity of voices was incredible. And it's something I am normally blind to. I mean, I'll be honest. I am, you know, those who know the LA area, right? I was born and raised in Newport Beach, you know, Orange County. I'm a mid 40s white male, went to USC, now work at USC. I am the epitome, you know, you're conservative, you know, all of those things. And I'm blind to a lot of issues. And the fact that we stepped up and said, this is going to be our point. We're going to bring other voices into this conversation. And we accomplished that in every single panel.
Mm-hmm.
And we were called out for the fact that we were saying it, we care about diversity, and we weren't. And we lived up to it. And that was the big thing. And while we caused other industry, you know, the same time where I had, what did you count? 6 meetings?
6
with CEOs, COOs, you know, board level people this week. I also received back end, stay in your lane, death threats. Why are you screwing with our company?
Really?
Why are you screwing with our industry?
Are you joking?
No, I am
Nope.
absolutely not joking, by the way.
Unfortunately, he's not.
And everyone who's on our back end channel knows I'm not joking. That,
That's
and here's the thing, and you think I'm like, I literally have gotten a death threat for stepping up for this vertical. I have literally been told that you will never work again. We will do what it takes to get you out, and
wow.
for ruining our channels. And that is 100% the truth.
I'm sorry that
And
happened.
it has
Yeah,
happened
that's
in the
really-
past. It happened literally the day I stepped out, and it was at the PSNI. The first time I took a voice, and I didn't mean to, but I was just naive and just spoke my mind at PSNI 2 years ago, was when I got the first one. And as soon as I got the first death threat, I figured I might as well keep going, because I knew that I sparked something. And that is why HETMA exists. And that's exactly why we need a change.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not lying to tell you, and those who are on the Slack in the back end of HETMA understand what I take in order to stand up for our vertical. And I get as much praise as I get. I also get the complete opposite.
And Joe, is that
And-
within our industry?
As 100% with our industry. And here's the thing. They are people who we all know. And I will not out them. I probably should, but I will not.
I hope I never find out who that is.
I hope so too.
Not who that is, who they are.
Whatever. I hope I don't find out who those people are. That's all I have to say. about it. That's
But that is 100% what happens. And this is what's happening. And here's the thing. I know that this industry is changing. And I'm not here to say it's us versus them. I'm just here to say that the world is changing. COVID changed things. In-house integration changed things. There's still a room. For everybody, the same thing. Okay, you know, I mean, I'm USC, so I understand that I am a difference in this in the world, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I am, you know, depending upon how many you know, projects we have going, I could be anywhere between $10 million and $20 million in AV spend every year, right? I get that. I get that I'm the outlier. I mean, we have $1 billion Lucas Museum coming next year. I'm probably going to be $50 million next year. But the fact is, oh man. Okay.
You care. It's worth it to you.
It's not about we're trying to fight integrators. All we're trying to say is that there's a difference in our organization. Things are moving. COVID showed us that, you know, everyone who had to all of a sudden become online bought off Amazon. Let's just be honest. They didn't go through standard channels. They said, I need 200 webcams for my company. And they went to Amazon and they ordered them.
Because they were
Right.
there and they were available.
That was it.
Yep.
right? And you needed them tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with saying I need to get outside the channel. It had to
Right.
do with I needed, business to continue.
Yeah.
And, I'm not standing up for HETMA to say, okay, I'm here to say, screw all you integrators, right? And I know here's where I was getting. I'm 15 to 20, 10 to, whatever my dollars are, right? Okay, so the fact is, I know that my number one, I am, even having most of what I do in-house, I'm still the number 5 client for a major integrator in the area for last year.
Yeah.
We still support the channel big time. It's about finding how our partnerships need to work together because the industry is changing, right? And you can go back, and I know, and I hear this all the time, and I'm sorry, Extron, I love you. And everyone knows I did an entire campus when I was at CBU, Extron and all that stuff. And all right, Crestron, you're the sponsor of Hired AV. But the fact is, and I hear this all the time. Well, I freaking hate Extron because all of a sudden they started letting end users in to get training. I hear that. The fact is, we are here, and it's smart business for my institutions whose job is to keep instruction going. And it's a smart decision for my institution to say, then why don't I bring people here who can do this and quit paying for the same service over and over and over again? And why can't I standardize my classrooms? Because we all know this. 5 years ago, if you walked into any higher ed institution, you would walk into one building and you would see see a Crestron system in one building. You walk to the next building, you saw an Extron system. You walk to the next one, you saw an AMX system. And then you would see the different GUI in one. Even if it wasn't Extron, it was whatever template was. Then you walk to the other one. And this is what you saw in the higher ed vertical. And of course, you probably saw it in all end user situations if you were, no matter what. And so it's smart for institutions to bring people in-house to say, hey, I need to standardize some of these things. All I'm doing is standing up for one vertical. Right. Sure, it's a $22 billion vertical, but I'm standing up to say, look, this matters. And we're not trying to cut anybody out. We're just saying that things need to change and our relationship needs to change.
I'll say the worst experience I've had with a major Tron vendor was when I had to go through an integrator. And I'm still ticked off about it from this summer because they weren't able to sell us or deal with us direct because of their channels. And I understand that, but
yeah. And here's the thing, and I don't want to say
the way the integrator treated me.
No, but here's the thing. It's not like the integrator. No, hold on. And I'm sorry to take I don't want to take your show, Tim, even though it's what I do well. It's not about the integrator. I have great integrators. I work with some of the top integrators here. I have integrator partners I love. It's not about the integrator. It's about old school mentality. And it's the same old school. It's the same old school mentality that wants to keep channels running the way they were. It's the same old school mentality that does not let women and minorities have positions of power. It's the old school minority, and that mentality. I mean, hopefully they're becoming a minority, and that is keeping this industry the way it is. And that's why, and everyone who knows me knows that there's one thing, even though I care about, I do care about our diversity and our women and all that. I always care about our strong women in this industry. And I also care about our young professionals. That is the one place that I invest in. People who know my staff know that they're very much on the younger side. I love investing in young people. And I love investing in young people of diverse backgrounds. And that's where we are going to thrive moving forward. I'll take the heat from my generation are the ones I'm fighting against, and I will stand against them. I don't care. What are they going to do to me? Right. I don't, what are they going to do to me? Outside of death threats, and maybe they will kill me. I don't know. But you know what? Who cares? The fact is this industry needs a change, and it is changing. And the fact is it's going to change regardless of what they say.
Right.
We
And
live in a
those are the
different
ones,
world.
and the ones that are threatening you are the ones that are threatened in the first place. They know it's coming, and they figure if they could be nasty and mean and try to squash you, it's bully syndrome is what it is. They're trying to be bullies, and they're trying to squash it from happening. And we're at this point, even as a culture here in America, that bullies are not allowed anymore.
It's just, it's not acceptable. And you know what, Lex, she was the greatest as the first AV Life rock star. And that's what she said. She came into it, and what she was so impressed is that you said, listen, I will teach you everything. You don't have to worry about it. And that gives you the self-confidence of where you actually bring out things about yourself that you didn't necessarily know, talents and all of that. And she shines. She absolutely shines. And so I totally agree with you. It's like you can bring somebody in, they don't necessarily have it. You can teach them, they can learn it.
You know, and 100%. I'm sorry, I'm so riled up right now. So Lex is the perfect example of someone who all you need to say is, I believe in you, and you are going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we need to find people in this industry. And we have so many gems in this industry.
So
that just need that.
Sorry, Joe. Can I ask you a question? And really, this is probably an open question for anyone. What would you recommend to anyone that wants to get more than a bachelor's degree to move forward in the industry? Like, how do people that are just getting started kind of get themselves forward?
You know who's perfect for this? This is a Spence and Richard question right here. Plain and simple.
Are you asking about certifications?
Like what? Or like what the next
Certifications, master's degrees,
if
doctor's degrees.
I may jump in
like
here,
what?
I think I know.
track
James
record.
is our certification guy going on right now. So
So let me jump in real quick. I think I know where Joe is going with. And I do agree with what if I'm correct, is get in ground level and get your hands dirty.
I agree.
That's key. Yes, as Tim says, I am always learning. I use that hashtag a lot. I'm always learning. I do like to learn, but I supplement my hands on with my learning. I'm not book smart. I don't sit here and just read and read and read without actually doing the physical work.
Well, I would like to say that I agree with that. I also think that you do encourage folks to not only get their hands dirty and so that they understand the nuts and bolts of why we're doing what we're doing in higher education. Like I say, when we first started, we had to do it all, many of us, and we had to build a team that was competent to get it done, that they had never done that before. But one of the things that I did then was put together a good team. We got our hands dirty, but then we looked for those certifications so that we learned some things we didn't know. What Gene Kranz, from the guy that was in charge of the Apollo 13, getting them back down there. Gene Kranz had something in it. He wrote a book called Failure is Not an Option. But one of the best things he said is know what you don't know.
Yep.
And that's where these certifications come in there. Know what you don't know, get certified, learn that sort of stuff. And then I would say get involved, whether it's HETMA. In our situation, it's the Digital Signage Federation. What I'm saying, you get on some committees of some of these things, do some work there, you network. That's how you get ahead. It's just not staying in your silo, but to get out. Now, I will say this, where some, not all, but some higher ed, it comes down to, well, we just don't have the budget to do that, or, well, we don't need to go to that conference, or let's go to a different, you're investing in your people.
But I want to say real quick on that is, yes, you're investing in your people, and that's great. But I also, like I said, the hands-on, letting them learn and make mistakes. Everyone's gonna make mistakes. As I tell everyone, you're gonna make mistake. It's how you recover. I mean, I told Joe this on first episode of the higher ed I did with him, was when I was a student worker, I did a code program for locking down a browser. A couple years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So I've been working full time now for about 5 years. And a student worker came to me and they're like, well, we found a way around your browser lockdown. If you do X, Y, Z, you get full access. So I looked at him and I go, okay, go find a solution. His jaw dropped. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you found a problem, go fix it. I did that when I was a student worker. We had a problem, I fixed it. You found a problem, go fix it. The kid it felt like a kid in a candy store. Like he was overjoyed that he had this opportunity to use his knowledge, what he was learning, to actually do something. I'm going to
It's
drop
all
my
about
mic there.
Okay,
There you go.
I need to share a little bit here. So
Okay.
Renee, Nancy, you guys are both salespeople. The women in AV are salespeople. There are very few people like me doing the actual work on site. There are some people. I'm sorry, you're muted, Nancy.
No, I'm not.
um,
I'm not muted.
Oh, I thought you were saying something. You just moving your mouth. So,
Oh.
so I want to. This is what I see. So as I was coming up through the ranks, Joe, you've talked about how you try to bring in young people and you try to have diversity and stuff. So, and you also talked about how as you're experiencing and pushing through stuff, you're getting resistance, very strong resistance in the form of death threats too. So I'm glad that you're courageous to go beyond that. I would like to encourage all of you all and all the people who are in higher ed AV that might be listening to this to not assume that just saying once, oh yeah, there's stuff out there for you. Make it, hold the door open, encourage more of that, because it was actually quite hard for me to even understand that Avixa existed. 23 years in the AV industry, and I didn't really understand what Avixa was until this year.
I didn't know what Avixa was when I got back into the industry. I
Well, I
mean,
was saying I'm in a similar boat. Like when I went from FDU to Rutgers, that's when I found out about Avixa, because FDU didn't really follow it. So
and
Right.
that's one area for certification. It's not even the most transferable certification. So there's other types of certification and knowledge and possibilities, like to kind of discuss and talk about your experience. Not just say, what do you like? I mean, there's one thing to ask people what they want, but like share with people, here's some opportunities. People who think, oh, I've got my lane, I've got to stick in it. And, I definitely had this, like, I've got a baby girl, I can't do this. I just got to keep my head down to keep my job. And people who are doing something in the range of death threats, saying, you just need to do exactly what you've been told. And this is where you fit. And this is where you don't fit. And I wanted to fit over there, but I was afraid.
The older I've gotten, the more I've realized most people, it feels like it's more prevalent in tech AV industry, but it's probably just adults in general, have a feeling of imposter syndrome of I don't belong. Everybody's going to find out I'm just faking it. I don't really know what I'm talking about. And so people need to be kind of invited to come out. We need your opinion. We need your input.
Holy crap.
Tim is doing that because clearly he knew I know nothing really about technology. I don't even have shoelaces on my shoes, but yet he invited me to this austere chat here, which I'm really, really enjoying. I can't believe how engrossing this is. A couple of points. One is, I think your organization, Joe Hetmer, you've got an entry point into the industry. I don't know whether you guys have ever looked at things like not mentorship, like Ignite does, like
Internships. You mean
Yeah.
intern-
right. That kind of sort of scholarship. That was the. See, I don't even have a really good grasp of the English language. Apparently, that was the word I was groping for. But
You created the language.
yeah, right. I know. Yeah, two nations divided by a common language.
Richard, I speak your language because I'm from Canada.
We got, yeah, there you go.
Hey,
We've got to have entry points in, right? And you know, I can only sort of act in and influence sort of my little universe, right? And who I hire and the type of people I bring into organizations when I'm allowed to do that. I'm sickened by the fact that you're getting threatened because of the position that you're taking. It's got to come from a place of fear, is all I can say.
Yeah.
Right? They're scared,
Yep.
and you know, hopefully they're just old and they'll just die soon. I don't know what else to say, really.
And
but
that's exactly it. That's what makes me realize that I've done something right. Because if I wasn't on the right track, I wouldn't be getting the threats.
yeah, I absolutely 100%. I've been in a couple of I've been around a while, right? In the sort of IT channel, more recently AV, but seen a couple of things that have been sort of game changing, and people do get threatened and can react in horrible ways. I'm really sorry to hear that, but you offer a good entry point into with your in-house integration. I don't know, scholarships, mentorship programs to give people a taste of the kind of things that you do. I think that is a tremendous opportunity there. That's why, and it's ironic that we met Joe at the Drunk Uncles event, because you know, NEC has always supported the Ignite cause, because it's one of the only few things out there in our industry that sort of encourages and will sort of pay companies to take and bring young people into the organization. Otherwise, it does become very generational, right? As I've said before, the channel is made up of a lot of people that sort of broke out of bigger companies, and now it's their second and third generation coming in and starting to run those companies.
Well, you know what, Richard, I'll tell you this. My eldest has seen me. He does very well, Target, electronics. And he said, you know what, Mom, I'm getting sick of retail. He said, I see what you do in your industry. Can you get me in there? Are there opportunities? And I'm going to tell you, I really just don't know where to start, which is sad. I really don't.
I'll tell you this, a great learning ground for this space. And you know, I'm sort of born in the channel kind of guy. So distribution is a really good place to start.
Yeah, he's a people person. He's got the technical capability, but it's like, okay, he's in college, he's in college right now. It's all right. Well, then what do? Do I reach out to because I've always done networking. That's how I've always got my jobs. I'm thinking, okay, do I network out to people, or because I don't know necessarily. Like I said, he would be better in front of a customer interacting than being, as you said, starting from the ground up of cabling or things like that. But
well, you know, it would be great to get a PMP. That's a super valuable thing, and that would be useful.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Translation, please.
Project management professional certification.
Okay, cool.
See now, and it's interesting because I've heard I was talking to a friend of mine about it, because I've been debating whether getting my PMP or should I go get my MBA. And she had read an article where the PMP is good right now, like in the short term, like because a lot of people are getting their MBA and things like that. But then the long term, like maybe you should get your MBA and be ready for like more of the upper management, longer term type stuff.
So a quick note on that, and this is something that took me a while. I'm actually currently working on my MBA, about halfway into it now. And I started a while ago on my master's. And when I first thought about getting my master's, I wanted to go for an MBA. And everyone was telling me, no, don't do that. You know, go do this, go do that. Like, I had a lot of people in my ear. One person even told me to go for Homeland Security because I was doing all the cameras at that time. And I started to do that. Not a bad field, good field. I actually don't mind it. But I'm glad I took some time off. And then when I decided to go back for my MBA, I personally sat down and go, what is my end goal? Where do I see myself going? And then what can help me get there? Now, granted, I may never get there, but it's not going to be because I, sorry, not because I didn't have X, Y, Z. I'm putting myself to get that path where I want to be. And so when I started going for the MBA, I actually had a lot of people go, well, why don't you go for the MAIT, which is Masters in Arts and Instructional Technology? I work for computers and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't want to teach. Nothing against teachers, but that's not where I see myself. That's why I went back to my MBA, and that's what I'm doing.
The journey in of itself is going to be valuable, man.
Mhm.
Yep.
Can I just tell you one little funny story about diversity? And it is kind of funny. I actually got a reach out from AVIXA, their diversity council, and invited me to be on their diversity council. I later found out it was a genuine mistake, but I just sent them a headshot back and said, I'm pretty sure I'm not the person that you want on this council. I'm very flattered that you thought of me. And then it came out, no, we actually didn't think of you. We were thinking of somebody else, and it just got sent to your email address. I'm really not the guy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, this is an awesome conversation tonight. Like this is, I mean, it went a little long, but I think for those who chime in and listen, this was absolutely phenomenal, and we've passed along a lot of information. We really delved into some things that needed to have the light shined on it. You know, it's really what it boils down to. Oh yeah, and I know Richard just brought out this drone. Yeah, we had a firing range article ready to go for tonight, folks, but unfortunately, we've gone over a little bit, and you know, Grandma apparently had her drone ready to go too. And Joe, I mean, I don't even. You found that of all things.
I
Don't know
said,
what's
"Hey,
going on
15
there at
minutes.
all.
What's 15 more minutes? If they've listened this
No.
long, they're
No,
gonna
no.
listen 15 minutes more.
No, because then I
No.
go into the 2-episode mode. I
I
cut
think
it
No.
off.
he's
at-
taking drone in a different meaning than we
Should
originally.
Yeah.
should Granny fly a drone? Come on, it was good. I admit. Look, Spence has Granny.
That's for next time.
I just
That's for
think
next time.
I think everyone can drop off and we do bonus material.
Well, that actually, what I
Or
was
you
gonna
can
say, I threw-
or you sign
That's it.
off like it's actually ending and then we keep going.
Oh, we just keep going.
but we're
and then
telling,
you do bonus.
but we're
and you
telling
drop it
them
on
that
like
we're
Wednesday.
gonna stop though, so that
Now
we'd
it's
have
gonna
to.
make them listen.
It's integrity.
That's how
at
you
this
get
point.
listeners, man. You gotta like tease it.
He's-
Do I have to
always check that timestamp on the podcast."
yeah, exactly. Well, that's I don't have that on. I should, because I just watched the clock, and so I know it's been like an hour and a half at this point. So
Oh, boy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and actually, I threw it up in the chat. Maybe we should just do an episode of nothing but firing ranges to just
God.
break. Just
That
we'll
would be
divide
great.
up.
Get 3 or 4 firing range and make sure Kim's in here too.
You
Yeah.
gotta make sure
Yeah,
Kim
we
is
need
here.
Kim
Yes.
that night.
Yes.
no,
Yes.
make sure Kim is here and hanging upside down.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
Yes.
you will be.
Yes, definitely. So, so Richard, Will, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but just remind our listeners where we can find you, where they can find you, Richard.
Richard Hutton 67, because that's how freaking old I am. On Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, come and say hi.
Yeah, and Will.
Hey, I'm Will DeWitt. You can find me on LinkedIn, or hey, I'm on Twitter now. Will R. DeWitt, DEWITT.
Yeah, thanks to Joe Way's podcast that Will now has a Twitter account.
Yep.
So
That's
yeah,
my power.
yeah.
I
If
don't
you
know,
want to,
we've
if you
had-
want to.
We've had
If you wanna
two
hear more-
people on in the last couple of weeks that didn't have Twitter that now do. I think that we have some influence in there too.
I think Twitter needs to be our sponsor now, because I'm gaining them
Will's-
users.
Will's
Mhm.
cat needs to get on Twitter.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
We can
the-
have
the
Will's cat.
There you go,
Will's
Will's cat. At Will's cat. So thank you to the crew. Thank you, and Joe, thank you. You definitely brought up some good points today, even though you did take over my show a little bit. So it's I guess
That's my goal.
yeah. As you said, I'm hurt. You said that. Now I'm saying it. You've hurt me. You've cut me deep, Joe. But that's okay.
You brought it on yourself.
Yeah, I did. I have to blame myself. I just don't have control. So yeah. But thanks to everybody for listening, and till our next adventure.